Most drivers crash this car within 3 laps, but in this video I will explain how to drive the Porsche LMGT3 in Le Mans Ultimate. We're gonna make it safe, consistent, crazy fast in the end, and with this kind of setup approach you get a deep understanding what setups need to change for your driving style. I've been sim racing for multiple years, building lots of setups, and this is how you drive and set up the Porsche in Le Mans Ultimate. Let's go. Now, before we get into the setup and the Porsche, we need to understand this circle. It is called a grip circle. Now, the thing is, with a grip circle, a tire can do so much cornering and so much acceleration and so much braking and cornering at the same time. So as soon as we go out of the circle, we lose the grip, right? This is something you really want to have subconscious in your brain in this video, because we'll change the circle for the front and rear tires to pull out lap time and gain consistency. So this will be something you need to remember. Now, tire grip is way more complicated than this, but let's keep it practical, okay? So let's go to the setup and I will show you different laps, how setup influences lap time, how it's gonna be more twitchy, how it's gonna be more oversteery and understeery. Let's go to the setup. So in the first lap, we're going to do, this is my level 1 setup. If I have a friend over, or if you are mega beginner or you're really struggling with this current update with the tire model, this is going to be the safest setup you'll ever drive. And it's even to the point where it's pretty boring, but I really feel that you can only improve, gain consistency and build up skill if you're actually finishing laps without spinning off. And this setup makes you not spin, basically. So I will show you these values quickly. Pause the video if you want to take them over. I want to explain a little bit with the traction control, and this is also when you're on fixed series. You can go really creative with these values, right? I like to stick with equal numbers. If you were on throttle and you lose the car and you spin the rear tires, increase every value simultaneously to avoid complexity. Obviously, there will be lots of different variants you can pick from, but that's just how I'm a simple guy, you know? I like to keep things simple. So, brake bias over this is the value. Front brake duct blanking, rear brake duct blanking. I don't really touch these, they are default. Suspension, pretty stiff springs. I run a pretty significant front ride height that we'll get into later. Also the packers we're going to talk about later. First, let's go out with this car on track and understand why this setup now is so safe as it is. If you're serious about improving your driving, you definitely need to have some sort of an overlay to see how your brake trace actually turned out. You could see I had to lift here, and now in this corner I also need to re-lift the throttle, because that will create some weight transfer, load transfer on the front, and that actually makes me corner the car properly. Again here, slow bleed off trail braking. I need to wait for the throttle, so you can see me jump on the throttle to finish that corner properly. And on this section as well, I can really use the brake and steer the car. It's actually a really good setup to learn trail braking without it punishing you. So you could set steering angle and really hit the brakes. Now here the setup really hurts. You need to wait, and then you can go apply the full throttle. And in this corner as well, it's really freaking safe. So if you go back to that grip circle, think about the rear tires constantly in a very safe window, and the fronts are constantly going out with oversteer. So I'm losing a lot of traction on the front, but it does allow me to learn trail braking, to get this lap in, and it doesn't matter how tired I get or how fatigued I get, I can always keep this car in check. You will never ever lose it or spin it that way. So here we got the first lap, a 38.
8.31.
That was a really safe setup. Let's go to something more adventurous and actually really all round for pretty much every track, not for Monza or Le Mans. So let's look at that level 3.2. By the way, 3.2 means updated. So I keep updating. People have bought this. I keep updating that stuff. I think setups are never finished. If I find something, I'll tweak it. On this one, we get lower traction control. On this one, we have a brake bias that is more going to this direction. So I always talk about increasing the brake bias, meaning increasing the front value. Increasing, however, with the slider means putting it more to the negative. So this one has this value. And suspension, we got a softer front springs, we got less packers, we have a spring rate that is stiffer on the rear, we have more ride height. Dampers are the same. We have a softer front anti-roll bar. All of these things combined create a car that is more aggressive on the front tires. So we're having this grip circle and we're using more of the fronts to corner the car faster, to have more grip on the front, to be on throttle earlier, and to be more effective while trail braking. But the effectiveness comes with a little bit of a trade-off, it being more dangerous. Now this is still really on rails. Let's look at the lap. I want to give you a good representation on what this setup now is faster. I'm driving like 85 or 90% of my limit, so I can actually make my braking markers and hit my apexes. Now you can see my brake input on this particular run was less optimal, and again I need to lift, and I need to lift a little bit to finalize this corner. But even though I trail braked a little bit badly and I had to lift still, we're gaining a few tenths. Now also here, trail braking, the front is just biting a lot more and we can actually steer the car a lot, but we need to be more gentle with our steering input, because in the previous setup we had the grip circle on the fronts losing the grip, and that just makes the car understeer and be very safe. But if we make these setup changes, making the front more dominant, making the tires more optimal, we need to be more specific with our steering input, that we're not bringing the rear tires out of the circle and losing the grip over there. Now again, this setup won't have that problem. You can see here as well, I need to lift a little bit. But then again, we're almost a second up, we're braking here. Now there's something really important with the corner exits, especially in Le Mans Ultimate. The straighter you can hold the steering wheel on throttle exit, the faster you're gonna be. When you're turning and accelerating, you lose a massive amount of time. It's absolutely insane. So let's also look at that last high level, how that went. This is a lot faster, 37.1. Hey, and if you're liking this content, could you please hit that like button? That really helps me out. And if you want to have a little bit of a summary of this video with the Porsche and the setups, I highly recommend to check out the description. There will be a free sample that you can download and use to tune your Porsche for, maybe, let's say, another track or a different skill level. So that was level 3. Let's load up level 5. You got all these different levels, so let's go level 5. I think this is a really good setup for massive amount of tracks. With some few tweaks, you can already bring this to your desired behavior. A little bit of a note on the traction control settings. Again, I've seen today, I saw a video from HD Racing explaining. He was something doing like this. I mean, these traction control settings, I have a feeling they might change it again. So I keep it simple, just at the same values. I can get really quick with these settings, but maybe I need to investigate it even more. So again, that brake bias, you could always, like this setup as well, you can drop that a lot more, but there will always be that one corner that will catch you out with oversteer. Now, why does that happen? You brake the car you steer or you're trail braking. Now, because load transfers forward, the rear tires get unloaded. And as you trail brake and you slow the car down and you're going slower, you might have that moment that the rear tires are so much unloaded and you're cornering the car that you pushing brake pressure to those rear tires and they need to corner as well. But because there's no load on the rear of the car, you start to lose it. This is why a brake bias that is on the front less than on the back creates this effect. Now, this can be very desirable if you can control it, but yeah, again, this will be on the safe side. If you trail brake properly, we get less backers, less front ride height, more rear ride height, stiffer rear springs, softer front springs. If you really want to get into that, I highly recommend watching that other video that I built on building your own setups with the aero box moving forward and backwards. Now a little bit of a side note. You have two of these long corners where you accelerate out of. Increasing the rear packers even more helps you to create a certain force on a tire that makes it more oversteer, especially with faster corners. But you'll tend to have a lot more force in the slow sections as well. So this is really a personal compromise. But if you find any car, this car, any car, if you have that understeer on throttle, increase those rear packers, you reduce the rear suspension travel, and you'll have more dynamic rake under acceleration. Also here, the front edge roll bar softer. Everything is again more aggressive. Now this can be tricky, and this is a real Porsche, but I'm loving this car as it is. So let's look at the lap. So here we go, and again, we're going to improve our lap time, and we can do that because we have a loose rear end. And what that basically means is here I have a smaller lift on the right hander, and here I touch the curb and I can actually keep it flat out. Now, still requires a lot of finesse and skill to set the car properly, but this aggressiveness in setup makes our car quicker. But the only reason why that is working is because we're pointing the car easier to the exit, and we're getting on the edge of that grip circle on the rear tire. So you can see here that I need to be on the braking, I need to be really careful because the fronts now actually have more grip while I'm rotating the car, and we have that massive engine in the back helping us rotate even faster, right? Over here as well, I can be on the throttle earlier. Now I did a really poor throttle execution there, so we're not gaining over here, but overall in this lap we're gaining lap time. And this, you can see I'm already playing with the steering. You can see that I'm also still need to lift, like I said in that previous part. It's a little bit personal with the packers here again as well, and another half a second. Now this lap time, I think it's a good lap time for me. I could even push this way farther, but then I need to do lap after lap after lap, and I will find even more time. I think a 35 is possible for me. So yeah, now you can, this was high wing. Let's talk about a setup that has a little bit less wing and how that's gonna look like. Now if you think to yourself, bro, this is way too much work, I highly recommend to check out the store down below. I will have their setup levels for a lot of different cars as well, so you can progress into higher levels as you gain more experience with Le Mans Ultimate. Let's move on. Now if you think to yourself, man, he's shouting all the time, I need to split up these recordings because these videos take ages to make and I have to split them up in different days, and now I'm on a different energy level. Anyways, who cares? So let's go to a mid-wing, level 4.1. So a mid-wing is a completely different setup, but with a different wing setting. In the previous updates of Le Mans Ultimate, it was pretty much a no-brainer and go low wing as much as you could, but they balanced that out really nicely, and especially when it comes to top speed of these different cars with these different wing settings, I would say it's so freaking balanced right now, at least for what I've seen. But when you are racing, when you're driving, racing with other cars, would you want to compromise the corner behavior a little bit just to have an edge on the straight, like 3 or 4 kilometers? And that just might be the difference being not overtaken. So that's why I want to show this to you, and that's why I like to have these different variants with wing settings. Again, this is the same. Also, this mid-wing setup comes with different ride heights and packers because the balance of the car is completely different. It's a little bit stiffer, this one. It has a little bit less rake, and it has a little bit of a different anti-roll bar setup. So yeah, and dampers. You know what? I'm just gonna give this to you. If you have this setup, right, and any setup, it doesn't matter which setup you have, if it's gonna be raining or if it's gonna be Sebring. I see a very clear connection between Sebring and rain setups. If this now I would transfer to rain, and this is what I will do with all my setups, I would go for, let's say, if we have a slider that's 15, I would go for 30% of this springs. So now we have softer springs because that will help with shocks and bumps. And then with the bump, I would go make sure the bump would say soft, and that is 18. So I would put like 25% of the bump, and I would do always a little bit more rebound. And the same what I would do for the fast rebound, and I would do that on every tire. Basically having a softer spring, a softer damper is typically faster in rain, not because the rain dynamics are so awesome in this game, but it's more about you're driving slowly. So when you're driving more slowly or you have bumps and curbs, you want to have a wheel that is going to be more easier to travel in its suspension. You're gonna have more mechanical grip, gonna be just faster overall, just having more grip in general. At least that's how I think about it, as my current knowledge is. Let's look at this lap, how that's kind of shaping up compared to a high downforce setup. On this out lap, I got like 4 kilometers extra on the straight, and I can pretty much pick the same braking point, and the difference is between this setup is a little bit less pressure on the fast corners. Now, I missing some rear wing pressure and some downforce and some rake, and it's gonna be tiny bit slower in the corners, and it's gonna be a little bit more tricky to drive, but on straights you're gonna have something more. Now, I don't particularly think it's a good idea to use this setup on Interlagos, but with, again, you got that big straight on the start finish line, that might just give you an edge. Now, these corners, the mid wing isn't really hurting because we're driving slowly and aerodynamics are less of an influence, but a few corners obviously are hurting us. Now, we're being also a bit slower. The car is a little bit more oversteery and understeery at the same time, just for the simple reason that we don't have a rear wing helping us out. And also for this corner, I also need to lift here a little bit, but now when we go on this corner and we go up to that exit, we can enjoy that low wing a little bit. So you can see the delta here is like 3.0, and you can very slowly see that delta drop a little bit, and that is just the difference between closing the gap and attacking the car in front of you, or just staying behind it all the time. So I think it's a really a race changer. So on the link below, you can pick up these setups if you sign up to my free tier Patreon. Just put in your email and get those setups, try them out, see if you like them. And yeah, a lot of people have already purchased these packs also for different cars, so check them out if you want to support me. That really helps me out. And I don't know, let me know in the comments. We could do this for another car as well. Maybe I'm doing this for a LMP2 or hypercar as well in the future. So Thanks for watching. Oh, and if you really want to get into setups or building your own from scratch, I highly recommend you watch this one. It's a good video, mate.